Oh God, nearly slipped. Nearly slipped, fell, and broke my fucking spine. Hey! Guys, hi, welcome into the fucking podcast. I'm back, baby. As I mentioned, obviously the podcast did go on a little break for the remainder of October. I'm sure if you're here, I imagine you watch my main channel. I was doing a lot on the main channel and trying to keep the second channel afloat with other videos throughout October. So I've just had a week off, so I'm feeling nice and refreshed. And I tell you what, guys, first thing I've learned, and it's not something that is like new to me, like I knew this anyway, but social media is so fake. Like, and I know to a certain extent it's not, because obviously this is my job. So there is that kind of real element there. Like, I am real. This isn't fake necessarily, but I think things like Instagram, and I'm not meaning it in a fake way of like, it's like an act or whatever, but I think it's very easy when, especially when you're like kind of chronically online, like I imagine a lot of us are these days, I think it's very easy to get kind of like caught up in the facade of social media. I think that's more what I mean. So like, over this past week, like I did obviously delete social media. I love doing that every once in a while. It just cleanses me a little bit. So I did do that. That always helps me just like kind of like reconnect to what's important in life and like remember that everything is fake online. And I'm going to delve into what I mean by that, and then we are going to talk about Chappell Rowan, right? So if you're here for Chappell Rowan, trust me, we're going to get there, but I have got a little thing to talk about first. So what I'm trying to get at is that like things feel much bigger, much more deep and like all encompassing on social media, especially when I think a lot of the problem comes from like the fact that we have like these For You pages and like these curated social media experiences where everything is vastly different for everybody, like depending on what you consume media wise. I think it's very easy to feel like what you're seeing on social media is like, it is everything, you know? But I think we're reminded often that a lot of times, like depending on what you consume, you are kind of fed this like echo chamberal feed, right? And I think sometimes, especially like when you're online and like you don't see nice things about yourself all the time, like sometimes people aren't the nicest online, I think it can really just take over your life, because you just think that like this is like, it's much bigger than what it actually is. And I think when we delete social media, it just reminds us that like realistically in your real day-to-day life, no one knows what's going on your specific social media or to you specifically, you know? Like, it's very easy to just disconnect yourself from it. Like, obviously, to a certain extent, if you're like some huge celebrity, I imagine it kind of like does pour into your personal life quite a bit. But generally for us, like, you know, us common folk, like we're able to just delete social media and have nothing to do with it anymore. So that's kind of what I did this week, and I really enjoy it, and I always do enjoy it when I do it, and I do plan on doing it more often actually. Like I don't have Instagram on my phone currently, because for me Instagram is the biggest one. Instagram is the one that gets to me the most, like in terms of like comparison and all that kind of thing, and getting caught up in the drama. Obviously, X and Twitter, like that's one that I rarely have on my phone anyway. I kind of go through phases with X and Twitter, because that is the devil, you know? Like that really is a horrifying place. And I have also found recently, and I don't know if this is just because like obviously Elon Musk is like controlling Twitter now, but I really have found that I'm like, I think my Instagram, even my TikTok, even though I rarely go on TikTok, like other things like YouTube, like I feel like they're all much more created more specifically. Whereas I feel like recently my Twitter/X, I guess, that it serves me some book-ass wild shit, which I don't quite understand. Like I get served a bunch of Katy Perry stuff, even though I'm not a Katy Perry fan. I get served a lot of like right-wing stuff, and I guess it's because maybe I'm interested in the left, so like they're like trying to show me the opposing side. I don't fucking know, but I've just been getting a lot of stuff that I'm just like homophobic stuff, and I'm like, why would you serve me this? Like, I don't want to see gay bashing. You know? But anyway, guys, this is so off the topic, and I could probably talk about this in like a future episode. But today, right? Hello, we're talking about Chappell Roan, right? I'm probably going to say her name wrong throughout this. I apologize. I understand it's Chappell, but I know some people call her Chappell, and I know that's not correct. And if she comes out in a few years and says it is Chappell, then I guess eat my arse. But it's like Tuve Lu, isn't it? Like everyone was calling her Tovlo. Apparently it's Tuve Lu, right? I'm going to call her Chappell, Chappell, Roan. I know it's not Rowan because that'd have a W in. I think it's Chappell Roan. But anyway, we're talking about her debut album, which kind of fitting timing because the Grammys just got announced. If you'd like a Grammy predictions podcast, let me know, and I would be down to do that. I mean, I say that, but yeah, I also think that's a surefire way of just getting hated on in the comments. So maybe I don't do it. We'll see. Because I do have some thoughts on the whole like Grammy predictions and like who's been nominated, who's been snubbed, that whole discussion. But we're talking about Rise and Fall of a Midwest Princess, okay? Now, I, like many others, didn't really know of Chappell before Good Luck Babe, actually. Like, I didn't even get into the album until I heard Good Luck Babe. It was kind of around the time where everybody was listening to Good Luck Babe, and I'm not going to lie, and I don't really know the reason behind it, but I was someone who was just like, oh, I don't need to get into this artist. Like, I don't, it's just not for me. And I didn't really know why, because I mean, she's a lesbian. I love lesbians, you know? She's a pop princess. I love pop girlies, you know? She's got the look, she's got the drama. Like, there was, realistically, what I saw of her, I liked. So I'm not sure why I was so apprehensive to get into the music. But nevertheless, I was a bit apprehensive to get into the music. I listened to Good Luck Babe. I got obsessed with Good Luck Babe. I listened to it the first time in the gym. And don't get me wrong, it's not the most operative gym song. But it was like, I don't know why, I loved it in the gym. So then I'm pretty sure I then decided to listen to Rise and Fall of a Midwest Princess in the gym. And I was obsessed, okay? Even on like first listen, it was one of those ones that was like, it was an instant grab for me. And I can't always say that. Now we'll talk about other albums because there is a few more albums that have come out within this recent period that I haven't had chance to like deep dive in with you guys yet and give my full thoughts. One of them being, I'm not sure if you're going to see it, one of them being The Secret of Us by Gracie Abrams. Now, I have a lot to talk about in terms of that album, so that will be coming soon. That's probably going to be the next podcast episode you'll get after this. But anyway, with all that said, with all that intro, sorry, this has been a long and all over the place intro, but I've been gone from the podcast for a month and a bit, so I've got things to update you guys on. Yeah, let's just get into Rise and Fall of the Midwest Princess. I think what we're going to do is, as usual, I tend to go track by track through the track list, kind of like say generally what I think these songs are about, which I feel like is a bit redundant for this album because I think most people have probably heard this album. Like, I think this is a pretty big album. And if you're watching this or listening to this, I imagine you have heard the album. So it does feel a little bit redundant because obviously it is an older album at this point, like it's been out a while, but I am going to still do that. I'm still going to give my thoughts because who knows, you guys might have a different perspective on some of the songs that you can tell me, which I would be happy to hear. And then I do plan on at the very end giving you my full ranking of every song from the album, and that's always the most fun part for me, to be honest. That I love doing rankings of things. Like, I almost do want to start doing more like maybe picking 2 to 4 albums and then doing a more like concise, short thoughts and feelings on albums and ranking albums and doing several in one episode. So if you'd like to see that, I'd be down to do that. Or if you'd rather just keep these like specific ones, let me know that also. But otherwise, let's go. Let's get into the album. So the album opens with Phenomenon. Phenomenon? Feminine. It's a femininomenon. Femininomenon. Okay, that's the first song. And I will say, obviously, like I mentioned, I did listen to this album first in the gym. And I actually recall exactly what I was doing at the time. I was doing those like pull downs, you know, with like your arms bent, ass stuck out, pull downs, that sort of thing. That was the exercise. And this is a very bolshy and like unique start to an album. Like I feel like she was kind of like serving like campy, fun, chic from the off. Like realistically, she probably could have started with some more like tame songs that were on the album and kind of eased people in. But I thought it was quite interesting how this song is like Chappell through and through from the off. Like I feel like this is some of the like most campy, fun energy we get on the album. Like there's definitely songs that do serve camp and fun even more so, but I think this was a brilliant start to the album because I just feel like it tells you who Chappell is straight away, straight out the gate. So I was like, okay, one, this is fun. Two, this song very much gives like men ain't shit energy, which is kind of like prevalent throughout the whole album, given the fact that to me, this album kind of speaks as like, whether true or not, to me, it's like maybe her discovering herself a little bit through this album, discovering kind of what she wants to do with her life, making obviously dreams and aspirations and goals come true, as well as figuring out sexuality, figuring out that she doesn't like men, you know, figuring out how iconic women can be and also sexy at the same time. Okay. So that's kind of like where I put this album in my mind, which love that, right? And as a man myself, don't get me wrong, quite an effeminate man, albeit. As a man myself, I can agree, men ain't shit, right? There's a reason why I'm single. And I couldn't be more not bothered by men right now. Like there's times in my life where I really feel the loneliness. Right now, I don't care to date. It's not on my radar. I couldn't give a flying fuck. Okay, so men ain't shit. We love it. Now, in terms of lyrics, I'm not really going to delve too much into the lyrics because I do think a lot of the times with her music, the lyrics are good, but they're not the most like, you haven't really got to dig for the meaning, if that makes sense. Like they're great lyrics and like she has some bars, but they're not the most like poetic style of lyrics. Okay, so lyrically, it's pretty self-explanatory. I do love the line, get it hot like Papa John, mainly because I love Papa John's, right? In terms of takeaways, that is probably the takeaway I order the most. I love their pizza. Yes, it's expensive. Now, don't get me wrong, I can drop like £50 on a takeaway from Papa John's because I do be getting... I'd be getting a pizza, some sides, maybe a dessert, a drink, you know, £50, especially with like the Uber Eats prices and like the delivery and shit. Papa John don't come cheap, but he is gorgeous and delicious. So I really appreciated that line right there. What I do find interesting about this track is that obviously she speaks about the fact that like men can't do it like a woman can. And like, I'm not sure whether at the time when she was like writing the song or whatever, whether she was with a man or recently got out of a relationship with a man or what, but it was very much like she would have to like lie to her friends and make her friends think that like he was like dicking her down real good, when in her brain she's like, you really have no clue. Like you can't do it like a woman. It's a phenomenon, a femininomenon. In my opinion, this was definitely a really good opener purely for like the self-discovery aspect, because I think that's a big part within this album as a whole. So I love that we're starting off this way. I also have got to say I love audience participation. If there's one thing about me, is I love a song that includes the audience and almost lends itself to being played live to an audience. You know, on the bridge when she's like, ladies, you know what you need. But does it happen? That whole thing. Love. Because I can hear, like when I listen to the song, I know seeing this live would be iconic because you've got all the women in the crowd screaming, no! You know, I love that. That's a big plus for me in terms of this song. Okay. And then I have got to say, towards the end of the song, I'm pretty sure it's the last chorus, or maybe just before, like as we get into the last chorus, we have a much more percussive element to the production, and I love that. It feels really good because then we obviously get back into the main chorus, like the punchy production, similar to before, but like we kind of have like that nice build, that nice payoff towards the end. So yeah. That's Stabbing and Armanon. Moving on, we've got Red Wine Supernova. Now, in my brain, like listening properly to lyrics, like when I was going through the lyrics and stuff, when I was writing down my notes, for me, this kind of lends itself to her maybe talking about like her first time with a woman, potentially, which would make sense given that like we've obviously expressed our disdain for the male form. Maybe this song is like, okay, we're starting to experiment. We're discovering more. We're getting down to the nitty gritty with a lady, right? And the reason why I'm saying this is because specifically one line she does say, "Slow down, sit down. It's new. It's new, first time." That's where my brain goes. Like I feel like we're almost like getting ahead of ourselves. We're moving so fast, and then we have to just remind ourselves and the partner maybe to just chill out, take it step by step. It's new. Like, yes, we may be overwhelmed, but it's good. You know, we're Gucci, we're having fun. Right. And alternatively, if it's not first time specifically, it definitely could be like her maybe fantasizing about a first time with a woman and that whole thing. And maybe like dreaming up what it possibly could be like, that whole thing. Now, once again, this one is kind of continuing the same campness. Like I'm gonna use the word camp a lot throughout this, I think, because if there's one thing about Chappell Roan that I really appreciate is how she's able to walk the line of camp, fun, but keeping it like so chic. I think that's why, I mean, me personally, I know this is why I really gravitate towards her music is because of that fact. Like, I think a lot of the time in music, we can get a bit too deep. And I think this is another reason why I'm loving Sabrina right now, is because she's able to teach her the line of like cute, fun, horny, but it's still being high fashion and tea. You know, I think that's what music was missing. And I think that's why these two specifically, obviously we had Charlie and like, she was like cunty diva, you know, but like those two specifically, like they really have been serving me like fun music and like almost cheesy, but like doing it in such a chic way that I don't think would work for a lot of artists, but it works for these two specifically. And Chappell, for me, that's where it's at in terms of her music. Like that's what I love. And the ad libs specifically in Red Wine Supernova, oh my fucking god. The little nah girl. Once again, like kind of like audience participation as if we're like singing this to friends and they're kind of like chiming in. I think that's so fun. I have got to say, there was a lyric in this song where I was, do you know when you just like mishear it? And like I've been going a complete opposite way. So she talks about how like in her flat, she's got a California King. Okay, maybe it's a twin bed. And then I thought she said after that, it's a mermaid. Don't worry, we're cool. Now, don't get me wrong, that makes no sense. I was thinking like maybe she was just like trying to be camp about how like we talk about like bed sizes and stuff, like king, queens. I thought she was like, oh, it's a mermaid, like a mermaid shaped bed. Woo, fun. But no, apparently she says, and some roommates. Don't worry, we're cool. Now, listen to the song again, right? And try, I'm not sure what you guys hear, but if you did hear roommates, then I guess you're just better than I am. But try and think of it, like, try and think of mermaids. It's a mermaid. Think of that when you listen into the song and then tell me that it doesn't sound like it, because it fucking does. Okay, but it's roommates, which I found quite interesting. And I love, best line of this entire song, I heard you like magic. I've got a wand and a rabbit. Iconic dildo references. Okay? I heard you like magic. I've got a wand and a rabbit. Love. Love. Best line of the entire song. Okay, next track we've got After Midnight. Now, this one's giving disco energy, right? It's giving disco's 70s fun. Almost a little bit Kylie Minogue in my mind, right? Because obviously Kylie Minogue had her disco era with the whole. Was it called disco? I think it was called disco. It was. Quite on the nose there, Kylie, but I appreciate it. But I could imagine Kylie being like a feature on this song and it would just work like so well. Oh my god, imagine Kylie Minogue featuring Chappell Roan featuring Kylie Minogue. That would be fun. But anyway, now in this song, it's kind of like the first time we hear about her mum and maybe the fact that like her mum is like kind of disapproving of how Chapel maybe chooses to live her life, which obviously we'll hear more about when it gets to Pink Pony Club. And for me, this song kind of speaks to maybe a like experimental phase. You know, like I feel like a lot of us do go through it, like obviously some more than others, totally. But I think a lot of lesbians I know maybe go through this more than gay men, because I think gay men almost know that they like men kind of not from the off, but like I think it's a bit easier to like recognize, where I think because of like women and this whole thing where like women, it's like normalized for two women to kiss each other and it not be like remotely sexual all the time. I think sometimes that can like, especially from like a lesbian's point of view, it can kind of mean that like they need a bit more time to figure some shit out, you know, like, oh yeah, well, I enjoy kissing my friend, yeah, she's a woman, but like that doesn't mean it's necessarily romantic because that's so normalized and like socially it's acceptable, you know. So I can see how like being a lesbian, it can be a bit more of a process to figure out exactly your sexuality. And I imagine a lot of the times that's why a lot of girls like go through like a bi phase before they maybe realize that they're lesbians. Because I watch a few YouTubes and stuff that have kind of had this same story where like they've had a boyfriend for a while and then they've kind of realized later down the line that like actually like they just don't like being with men, but because of like what society says and stuff, like it's kind of like more difficult to get to. And obviously the reason why I'm saying this is because in this track she does mention a few times, I think it's on every chorus or something, she says, I kind of want to kiss your boyfriend, or like I kind of want to kiss your girlfriend. Like she alternates, so that's why it's kind of making me think like, oh, I wonder if this was a phase of her like experimenting with women and like kind of figuring herself out a bit more, as well as obviously like going out, having fun, all the fun things happen after midnight kind of vibe, right? So that's After Midnight. We've then got Coffee. Now, this is like the first kind of like ballad type, which I think is a nice, like track list wise, I think it's a nice time for it because we've had 4 tracks of like pop, fun, camp, and I think it's a nice time to kind of like bring us down a little bit before us like going off again. So Coffee, in terms of placement, perfection. And this song overall, like generally, is kind of about this idea of like you and another person not even being able to like pursue things as friends and like doing like platonic friend stuff, like we can't do anything but a coffee date, when ultimately like she ends the song by saying that they can't even do coffee, like let's not do coffee, let's not even try, whatever, because there's like a magnetism between you and another person, and it's kind of this idea that like you're more into it than maybe the other person is, and like you're kind of like protecting your heart almost, like you don't want to get your feelings hurt, and but you know yourself, and you know that you won't be able to not catch feelings slash we've already caught feelings, but to avoid potential heartbreak, like you don't want to get yourself too deep in the situation. That's kind of like the energy of the song. And then ultimately at the end of the song, she kind of just says like, let's not even do coffee, let's not even try, let's give each other some space, some time, whatever. And yeah, essentially it's just like one of those situations where you want to be around the person because you like them, slash maybe even like see yourself becoming like deeper and deeper in love with them, whatever. But you know that it's not going to be reciprocated So it's best just to like stay away from the person, which is very sad. Like I don't think that's not really a topic that people hit on that much. Like it's not sang about all that much in music, but I mean, I've never experienced it. Like I've never experienced like an unrequited love situation, mainly because no one loves me. But like I can't imagine like having feelings for someone, like deep feelings, like a friend or whatever, and just knowing that they're not going to feel the same way. And maybe it's like she has these feelings for a woman, and like this woman's straight, and like or either that or she's just like a friend of hers that she doesn't know her sexuality yet. But Chappell's like, I know I love you. Like, I know I've got feelings. You know, who knows? Because she also does like obviously mention like we can't have wine because then we're gonna get drunk, and then like we kind of know what that means. That's gonna lead to things. So maybe this person's like loose lipped and loose tongued when they're a bit more drunk, but like it's not like a serious thing. Like when they're not drunk, you know, like maybe it's just like a drunken thing for them, but for Chappell, it's like, you know, it's a serious deal. It's an interesting song. I will say it's not my favorite on the album, but we'll obviously get to that when we get to the ranking. It's an interesting song lyrically. It's not my favorite sonically, if that makes sense. Moving on, we've got Casual. Now, this song, okay? I love this song. This one definitely gives like the most perfect mid-tempo, like still feels good and like upbeat enough to like have fun with it, but like it's also like a great song to just like sing at the top of your lungs. You know, that's how I feel about this song. It's kind of about being like a side piece kind of vibe, like someone that someone doesn't take serious, like this person's trying to make you think that although we're doing all these relationshipy things and we're doing all these like things that people like couples would do, like for example meeting your parents and like whatever, although we're doing all these things, the person's kind of like trying to avoid commitment and is like, oh, but we're casual. It's so casual as to not get in too deep and also probably allow this person to kind of do whatever they want and like bin you off if they want to without them having to feel like they've like hurt you in any way because they've not committed to you as such, right? And I do think like straight after Coffee, this makes total sense. Like if that kind of is the tone of Coffee also, where like it's this unrequited love, someone maybe not taking Chappell as serious, it kind of would make sense for Casual to follow that narrative, you know? I will say the line knee deep in the passenger seat and you're eating me out. I mean, it's a great line and it feels great to sing. I don't think I understand it. Like, is this a lesbian thing that I'm not clocking? Knee deep in the passenger seat and you're eating me out. Like, is it kind of meaning like I'm trying to like dissect this? Is it kind of saying like, because usually if you're in the passenger seat of a car, like, for example, like my dad drives, my mum's in the passenger seat, like relationship energy, like we're knee deep in the passenger seat, like we're kind of knee deep in like a relationship territory kind of thing, and you're eating me out. Because like in my brain, I was thinking of it super literal, but maybe this is a bit more subliminal in a nature. I'm not sure, or maybe it is just like, but like, what are we knee deep in? Feelings, right? I'm assuming it's like knee deep in feelings and like they're eating us out. But like, are we also in the passenger seat of a car and I'm getting munched upon? Maybe. I'm not sure. If you guys have any insight into that line specifically, maybe I'm just missing something. Knee deep in the passenger seat and you're eating me out. Love. And there is kind of like an element in this song, I think, of her almost like playing into the casual thing, like almost trying to put up a front of being like, yeah, I'm super casual, like acting like we're so unbothered, just so we can like continue having these like relations with this person. Because she sings, baby, get me off again, like whatever, like I just think she's like trying to act all flippant, like, oh yeah, just get me off again, let's have some fun, blah, blah, blah. But then, like, obviously internally, she's like, love you, you know? Now, I have got to say, favorite part, once again, for me, in terms of this song, is the outro. Like, the vocals on the outro, the build, the line, I fucked you in the bathroom when we went to dinner, your parents at the table, you wonder why I'm bitter, is fucking buck wild. Now that is a bit too specific for it not to be true, you know, like that makes total sense. But like being at the family table, having a family dinner, nip into the bathroom and fucking is wild. That's crazy. Like being horny at the family meal is wild. Love it for her though. Like that's campy and cunty, and I appreciate it. You know, that's a great energy to have. But Jesus Christ, I'm not sure if I could get it up knowing that my mum and dad are in the next room. But anyway, next track, super graphic, ultra modern girl, mouthful of a title, banging song, right? This is a banger. Now, this one is once again Men Ain't Shit Part 2, right? Part dos. When dos become uno, right? Men Ain't Shit Part 2. And like the whole intro of her being like, so I went, like people say not to go on a date on a Friday night, but there I was with my hair straight. I took him to the spa. Basically, this man wouldn't dance. He didn't ask a single question, and he was wearing those fugly jeans, right? Wait, I kind of snapped that. I definitely missed out a few lines, but like the essence is there, right? And that guys, not to drag straight men, because I am generalizing here, but that is how I see straight men. In my brain, that's how straight men act. Like like I said, don't get on your high horse. I understand some straight men are brilliant, right? They know romance, they know romance, they know how to woo a woman, right? Some. But when I think of like, especially, like, I feel like when it comes to men, romance and like wanting to like woo a woman, right? I feel like that comes with age. Like, I think when you're in your 30s, maybe 40s, that's when I feel like a man's like, you know what, let me woo my woman. Now, when I think of like maybe the men that Chappell might have been dating, I imagine it was like in your teen years, early 20s. I'm not even sure how old Chappell is. So I'd imagine it is like teenage men that like, I just don't imagine their frontal lobe has developed enough to know to like ask questions and like be fun on a date and let's have fun and like whatever. I just see these straight men as being like what she described. And I know I'm probably incorrect. And like I said, once again, I am generalizing. But God almighty, do I relate to what she speaks about at the beginning there. And I don't know that many straight men. I don't. I know some, not many. And there's a few I do know. Actually, they are pretty dull. I was going to say they're actually kind of funny. They are pretty dull. Okay. Now, there is a line in here where she says, making out while the world collapses. Now, I know obviously like at face value, it's just a line. Okay. It's a cool line, whatever. To me though, especially with like, in regards to everything that's happening currently, you know, all the trauma that's going on currently, especially over in America, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, like, damn, like we really are like obviously we're all kind of like on this, like some of us, obviously not all of us, I don't want to generalize, like a lot of us are kind of like on this pursuit for love. I think like in terms of like the human race and human nature in general, for the most part, obviously like there's a lot of exceptions here and there, like obviously like asexuality, aromanticism, all this kind of thing. I understand that, but I think a lot of us are on this kind of like search for a romantic person, a partner, this whole thing. And sometimes, like, not to get all existential, but when I was listening to this song and like that line came up, I did think like, fucking hell, like how stupid, how stupid are we, me specifically, to be like worrying so much about being single and like I'd love to have a boyfriend and all these things that come and go in my brain when realistically, like, we've got so much like bigger fish to fry in a sense. You know, the world is literally in shambles. And here I am, day to day, worrying about having somebody to kiss and cuddle. Like, yes, I'm not trying to diminish my feelings, because I do think part of like the human experience is like, whether that's romantic or not, we just want comfort and like a companion, whether that be friends, family, romantic relationships, whatever. I think companionship is a big part of human nature. So like, I'm not trying to like diminish that in any way, but fuck me. Like, worrying about going on dates and like being single when like literally like we've got human rights being stripped. You know, like it just seems so minuscule in comparison, and it just kind of put I don't know. That's just where my brain went. It's not that deep at all, and I completely am aware of that. But for me, it was just like, God damn, yeah, oh, I'm in love, I'm making out while the world collapses. You know, I don't know. It's just where my brain went. Sorry to put a dampener on the song, but that's just where my mind goes. Once again, the bridge of this song, she does do a killer bridge a lot of the time, right? The bridges are just banging. So this is another one, stellar bridge. And it kind of has that same kind of like audience participation tease a little bit, which I love. And overall, I think a lot of it just kind of comes down to this whole like aspect of self-love. Like I'm pretty sure throughout the whole song she's kind of saying like, I need a super graphic ultra modern girl like me. Like, she's kind of like giving herself props, like, no, you know what, I'm on this date, I carried this date, I'm a fucking catch. And I will give myself props. Like, I do say to myself, like, I like, realistically, I think I'm a catch. I'll hold my hands up and say it. But I think that's part of the reason why I'm not someone who will just like settle for anything. And I think that's why I've been single for so long. Like, yes, I'm picky, but I also won't settle for shit. Like, I feel like that meme from Pearl where she's like, I won't accept a life I do not deserve, or something she says along those kind of lines. And that's how I feel. Like, I will not accept a life of which I do not deserve. I won't. And that goes for relationships too. Like, I deserve a certain level of decorum, sexiness, and hilarity. Like, I need a funny, sexy guy, and I'm not going to settle for anything less, you know? And I like that whole like self-love aspect to this song. It's really fun. Speaking of fun, hot to go, exclamation mark, right? If there was going to be a song that's going to use like punctuation and things, like the exclamation point, this song was going to be the one, right? The epitome of campy, fun, but still chic. Everything I've been saying that Chappell Roan gives me in terms of like an energy and a vibe, this song encompasses it. And I think that's the reason why people love this song, because not only does it have kind of like the fun, like easily adaptable to like a dance and like movement, because like the song is almost like instructing you what to do in terms of like a dance move, you know? And in that vein, like, to me, this song gives hoedown, throwdown energy. Like, I could see this song being in the Hannah Montana movie. You know, like, what is the song? Get across the floor, shuffle in diagonal, you know, and then obviously like Chappell's like touch toes, body roll, you know, it's the same kind of vibe. So that's just where my brain went. I was like, oh, hoedown, throwdown, love her. I will also say this is like one of those songs that I feel like it's one of those that you don't hear often. Like, there's certain songs that just hit like this one. Like, another example, obviously this is not as chic at all, but the Cha-Cha Slide. You know, it's one of those kind of songs that it's just like, it hits. Gangnam Style, another one, right? Like, it lends itself well to being a trend so easily, and that's why it's so successful and fun to participate in. Like, I could easily see this being played at Butlins as like a party dance, right? And I'm a child that grew up at Butlins. Don't get me wrong, I'm not sure if I'd take my children there, like fucking hell. It got a bit old. But I am a child that grew up at Butlins, and I could see this being played on the dance floor. You know, like Time Warp, Hot to Go. It fits. And I love it. Now, she does say, no one's touched me there in a damn hot minute. And I do relate, right? I feel attacked. I feel called out. And I relate to that. I relate to that statement. And I also would like to be taken hot to go. Okay? Obviously vocals, especially towards the end, she kind of serves vocals on this one. As much as it's like a fun, not to be taken seriously number, like she still really does serve some stellar vocals towards the end specifically. And I do, once again, love this very candid end of her just being like, talking to someone, being like, oh, you coming home with me? Great, I'll call the cab, whatever. I just think like she has a certain way of like keeping her songs within a reality. Like even on that other song that I was talking about with the ad-libs of like, the nah girl, like it feels like it's a song for the girls, you know, like it feels like we're singing this together and like we're all chiming in. Like her songs feel like they're being played live a lot of the time. Like this is one that I could see, like I said, kind of hoedown, throwdown energy. And you've got these people chiming in and like she sees someone in the crowd, they're coming home with her at the end. I love that about her music. A lot of them do kind of have that energy. So yeah, that was a slay. Next one, My Kink is Karma. Now this was a grower on me for sure. Wasn't my favorite when I first listened. Like it wasn't a bad song, but it wasn't like a top of the top. I love My Kink is Karma, and I think let's normalize wanting the worst for someone. I'm right there with her. Like I literally wrote in my notes, honestly, I'm glad someone said it. Because period. Like, I'm sorry. When I break up with someone, or actually more most of the time, it's like when someone breaks up with me, like I have an ex. I'll hold my hands up and say, I do have an ex, right, of 6 years at this point. And he broke up with me and he broke my heart at the time. Looking back now, what the fuck was I thinking? First and foremost, hindsight's a wonderful thing. But second of all, he broke my heart in that moment, right? And there was a bunch of fuckery after the fact. Like, it was not like a clear like cut, like we're breaking up. Like he kind of strung me along a little bit there, which also is fucked up of you, fella, right? I will say. But past that, if you break up with me and break my heart, I want the worst for you. Sorry, maybe I'm a bad person. Like I know a lot of people that can like break up with people or be broken up with and they can remain friends. And most of the time that's not going to be me. Right? I don't, like, if I didn't choose to break up with you, if you think I'm remaining your friend, you've got another fucking thing coming, Mary, right? I don't want to see you anymore, and I want you to do the worst, okay? Like, my ex, for example, he was an actor, right? Now, when I would, like, you know, like, sleuth a little bit, and I'd check up on him every once in a while after the fact, and, like, see if he'd been doing anything interesting or if he was at all successful. And then obviously like seeing that he wasn't really being that successful in his field, did that bring me some joy? Yes. Yes, it did. Right? And then also part of it for me was like, oh, like I'm kind of like being successful right now. Like kind of fuck you energy, you know, like good for me. Because I feel like a lot of people will relate to this as well. Like, we want them to be jealous. Like, part of the breakup process is making your ex jealous. It's just the tea. And boy, oh boy, do I feel that to my core, okay? Like, one specific part in this song that I do live for, and it feels good, is, like, kind of the way we float into the chorus. Because she kind of, I think she sings, people say I'm jealous, but my kink is watching you. And like she's up there. And I like how like that line, it like rises as if to a climax, you know? And then we get to the chorus. And I love the way that like the sentence isn't finished until the chorus begins. Like, I'm always a sucker for that when like lines in songs connect. Like there's a Halsey song that does it too, where like she has a line, and like the beginning of every line it not only starts the next line, but it finishes off the previous line. And I think it's very smart. And I like the way that this kind of has that similar energy, because she's obviously like, people say I'm jealous, but my kink is watching you. And like, obviously that's not the end of the line, because then she starts with obviously ruin your life. And then she's obviously listing all the ways that like she enjoys seeing this person fuck their life up, essentially. I just like it. I like the lyrics. I like the way it works in terms of like the climax and then the hit for the chorus. Next track is Picture You, right? Now, I will say, not to give it away, but this is definitely one of my favorites probably my favorite in terms of like the ballady types, because obviously Casual has kind of got like a ballad energy, but I wouldn't necessarily say it's a ballad, whereas I'd say this is definitely more ballad. So like we've obviously got this one, Coffee, Kaleidoscope, they're like defo ballad types, right? This one's definitely my favorite out of all those ballady energies that we've got on the album. It's very like horny ballad. Like, it's not a straight up ballad. Like, it's definitely still got like that like horniness about it, which I do love. I just love a horny person. But yeah, so definitely horny. It's very melodramatic in like the best way. Like, I love a melodramatic bitch. I do. Like the way she sings it, and like the way her vocals work on this song, as well as like the instrumental to the song. I just think all of it together creates this very like melodramatic, almost like this like 50s kind of energy. Like when I listen to this song right now, hear me out here, right? When I think of this song, I think of like Grease, you know, like the movie slash the musical, right? I think of Grease, and I think, because I mentioned in Short and Sweet, I'm pretty sure I mentioned for Please, 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 I think it was, that like it does kind of give me the like hopelessly devoted to you kind of energy from Grease. And I was thinking, wait, so if Sabrina's kind of giving like hopelessly devoted to you energy, this Picture You song gives me kind of like Rizzo, Sandra D energy, right? Now that to me makes total and utter sense. You know, because I feel like Rizzo had like, as much as like Sandy, obviously, like she kind of goes on this roller coaster of like expressing herself differently and like becoming sexy. Obviously, like at her core, she's more like cutesy and whatever. And then Rizzo kind of has this like edge about her. And now I'm like, you know what? This song is kind of like the horny equivalent to like a Rizzo song. To me, that's just perfect. I just wrote where Rizzo. I love it. I do love the line, "Am I in the frame from your point of view?" I think that's my favorite lyric from the whole song, and the way she sings it, it's great. And this is definitely another one that feels great to belt in the shower. Like there's some songs that just hit, and this is definitely one of them. Now, Kaleidoscope. It's kind of like this idea of like being let down, kind of what she's been speaking about, to be honest, in other tracks, about like maybe a love not being reciprocated, and like you have all these feelings and this person's just not committing to you the way that you want them to commit and whatnot. It's kind of like about like the different scopes of love, whether that be obviously romantic, friendship, whatever, like how love in general can come in so many different forms, which I think is lovely. I will say though, however, this song particularly for me as a skip, it's a little bit cheesy for me personally. I think it's got its place, and I think it's nice to have on the album. It's just not going to be my particular taste, if that makes sense. Next track, however, Pink Pony Club. Now, Jesus fucking Christ. She's iconic. Okay, she's theatrical, which for me, that's another like chip in Chappell's hat. Is like she's got the theatrics, and I think that a lot of that obviously does come from like the look. which I fully appreciate. Like, you guys know, I appreciate a woman who will serve a look, will serve a concept, will give everything, which a lot of the time, a lot of women do that. Like, per era, like, they're kind of switching it up. I've spoken about this before. It's weird how, like, that's not reciprocated in men's music so much. But I also just think there's more fun in that. Like, I think that's why I love a lot of women's music, because like it's a vibe, it's an aesthetic, it's everything. And this song is like kind of like the token song when I think of Chappell. Like, when I think of Chappell, I think Pink Pony Club. They go hand in hand. This is the most her song, I think, on the entire album. Maybe this and Hot to Go, they both give it, but I think Pink Pony Club kind of tops it for me. The storytelling is on a 10 here. Like, this might be my favorite song lyrically, and like in terms of like creating a story and an arc and like something for me to follow along with. This one's perfect. In the first verse, she's kind of talking about wanting to follow her dreams and kind of like thinking about what life could be like and like where she sees herself in the future or whatever, preemptively thinking about how maybe her mum would react if she was to go for it and follow her dreams and do exactly what she wants to do. And it did make me wonder that maybe, because she obviously comes from, I think she comes from like Tennessee, Missouri, I'm not really sure, like around that kind of area. Is that the South? Like, I feel like Tennessee gives me like country vibes. It does make me wonder, like, is her mum more of like a conservative lady? You know, like, obviously, because we've mentioned a few times in this track and obviously in the one towards the beginning of the album about like her mum maybe not being the most approving of this kind of lifestyle and whatnot, and maybe she's a bit more strict. It does make me wonder, like, especially if we're coming from like a country background, it would make sense that she's maybe a bit more conservative, like maybe she's a God-honoring woman, you know? So yeah, just interesting food for thought. Obviously, I don't know Chappell's personal life at all, so there is that. But second verse, I feel like following along on this story, to me it kind of reads as like she's now left Tennessee, because she does sing "I thank my wicked dreams 1 year from Tennessee." So I imagine first verse was obviously her thinking about following her dreams. Second verse, we're following our dreams, we're going for it. It's been a year since we left, and kind of like how our lives have changed for the better kind of energy. Singing about how she feels like she's made the right choice for herself. And even though, like, once again, we're obviously talking about her mum in this, and kind of like, even though her mum's maybe not going to be the most approving of the lifestyle, she doesn't care because she's just having fun. She's living her life how she wants to live it. And that's good enough for her. She can kind of like acknowledge that her mum might not be approving of it, but we're living our lives for ourselves. And I think a lot of people need to remember that, is like, as much as like, yes, we have to respect our parents and whatnot, and obviously without them we wouldn't be in the world, your life is yours to live. And I think that's a beautiful thing. Like, if I was worried about what my parents think and like what my parents expected from me, one, I probably wouldn't be doing YouTube because they didn't understand that when I first started. I probably wouldn't have moved away initially to go to like dance uni. Maybe I would have, maybe I wouldn't have. I don't know, because I feel like it's kind of like from where I'm from, it's kind of like expected that you kind of stay around the area. But my mum was always kind of like approving of us leaving and pursuing a dance career. So I don't know, but I definitely wouldn't have pursued YouTube as a career. That's for sure. Like, my life would be very different if I'd have like thought of that. So I think that is a great message to spread, is that like, yes, respect your parents, totally, give them thanks, but ultimately make your own decisions for yourself. And if you know in your gut and in your heart that you want to do something, and you know that you'll benefit from it, or you'll enjoy it, or you want to even just try it out, go for it, diva. That's what I say. And then I feel like the bridge is then like kind of like the third part to this story, like maybe her reminiscing on life back in Tennessee and kind of saying like, you were good to me. I don't forget you. Like, I've not forgotten you guys. Like, I still think about you all the time. I love you, whatever. Like, she's not forgetting where she came from, but she is ultimately embracing her new life and loving every second of it, which I think is beautiful. And yeah, in general, I did just write that the vocals are incredible on this one. The perfect mix of fun and cunt, which I've been saying throughout this whole thing. Okay, next track, Naked in Manhattan. Now, I will say, love this track. I think it's once again another fun one, but this is the first one where it does feel a little bit familiar, like it feels similar to others that we have on the album. Like, it's still great, but it doesn't feel the most unique. Like, I feel like every other song is kind of like its own thing. Whereas I feel like this one to me feels similar to like Super Graphic Ultra Modern Girl, Red Wine Supernova. Like, it's kind of a similar energy to those ones. Now, I do think this really could be our first time with a girly. I did put a little storyline to this. Now, obviously, this is all just speculation, but I enjoy doing this. Like, when it comes to songs, like, I love coming up with a narrative that might not be correct, and that's okay. So for me, I was like, is this maybe like an old friend that like is either coming to visit us or we're going on like a friend holiday kind of thing? And it's like maybe an old friend that like maybe we referenced in an earlier track that we liked, but we weren't sure if she would have liked us back, or like maybe she's straight, but Chappell's like, you know what, now I know that I like women, I'm really seeing you differently. And maybe they experimented together, but for the other girlie, it was just like her being like, yeah, I'm fun, straight, and I'm kissing a girl. Whereas for Chappell, it was like, no, I think I'm actually a lesbian because of this. You know, it could be that kind of vibe. And realistically, if you're going to experiment anywhere, New York feels like the perfect place to do it, you know? Like, if we're going to have fun and figure some shit out, I'd probably go to New York to do it. Like, it feels like a pretty accepting place in terms of, like, different people, the LGBTQIA+, you know? It feels correct to be doing it in New York. The chorus is really catchy. The whole, like, touch me, baby, put your lips on mine. Touch me, touch me, touch... That whole thing. Love. Very catchy chorus. I love singing along to it. And at the end, I believe we're kind of confessing to the friend that we want to fuck. Which... ballsy. And good for you, to be honest. Wish I had those balls. But anyway, moving on. California. This is another one, actually. This is another kind of ballad energy that I do love. Like, this is up there with Picture You for me. A beautiful, almost, love letter to, like, Missouri. See, is Missouri near Tennessee? Or is it in the same thing? I don't know. One of them the state? Guys, I don't know. I'm not. What's funny is I got an A in geography in school, and I didn't even fucking know where Wales was. You know? And it's basically about her hating LA. Now, I'm pretty sure part of her story that I have heard in like interviews and stuff is that she obviously like did come out to LA to pursue a music career. It kind of didn't hit off straight away. And I think there was a time where she was kind of like questioning whether to move back to Missouri, Tennessee, whatever, which I feel like this song is kind of coming from that kind of time where she's like not really knowing where to go with this. Like, she came out here, she followed her dreams, she followed her passions, even though her mum wouldn't be approving. She then had this moment of like, oh, well, it's not kind of hit off yet, so maybe I should go back to my life in Tennessee, Missouri, because like outside of me obviously like expressing myself and whatever and following my dreams, like she obviously does still love Missouri, Tennessee, whatever, you know? And then I'm pretty sure, didn't she move back and then end up coming back or something? I don't know. I swear there was a time where like I think she spent a year in LA or something, she said, and then she moved back. I don't know. I think she moved back for a while because it didn't hit off straight away, and obviously then I think she must have gone back to LA to try it out again, and then obviously like she got in there with like Olivia Rodrigo, Dan Nigro, and then she's now hitting, which realistically, for me, I think this must be a really interesting song to kind of like think back on, or even just like this time of your life. Or I bet this is a great one for her to sing. Like, hindsight is truly a beautiful thing. This to me is very clearly from the point in her life where she was like, oh, is this never kind of going to happen for me? And I think that's a real emotion that a lot of people like think. Like obviously not on the same scale, but like I've had things before where I've been like, oh, like I really want this, and like I was grafting at YouTube a long time before like I even started making money or whatever, and like there was part of me that was like, I really want this, I want this to go well, and like I never really saw myself hitting it off, and there was like a real conversation that I had to have with myself of like, will this ever happen? Like, am I wasting my time? Amongst like family members also saying this, and like she kind of hits on that where it's like friends or whoever are kind of just like, if it hasn't happened yet, maybe you should go, like whatever. Like this is a real experience, and I bet that's a really interesting one for her to think back on and sing, given where she is today. You know, like killing it, and like is nominated for God knows how many Grammys. Wild. And then last song, we do have Guilty Pleasure, right? Now, I do think this song feels a little bit redundant. A little bit. I like the song, but I think track listing wise, I would have probably preferred California to be the ending. Which I almost understand why it's not, because obviously like there was kind of like an up after the whole like debating whether she was coming or going, or like she maybe didn't want to end the album on like To Think I Almost Had It Going but I Let You Down. She probably didn't want to end the album on that, which is understandable. But I think vibes wise, I just would have preferred California to be the ending. But I'm in two minds. Like, I understand why it's not, but I wish it was, kind of thing. I do love the switch up. Like, I do like how this song starts off slower, which I think coming off the back of California, it's nice for it to start off a bit more mellow, and then we end on a high. That at least is smart. And yeah, that's kind of that song. Now, to end off, I'm going to quickly give you my ranking. And I urge you guys to either send me your ranking on a social media platform, or if you're watching on YouTube, maybe comment it down below. And also, last thing before we get into my ranking, please rate me 5 stars if you're listening on Spotify. It really does help me out. And maybe subscribe to the channel if you're new. I do podcasts every 2 weeks, Sunday at 10 a.m. So there's that. Ranking wise, let's go from 14. So in at 14, we have Kaleidoscope. At 13, we have Coffee. At 12, we have Guilty Pleasure. Now, those three kind of could have been rotated somewhat. Like, they're all kind of like the same for me, but at this specific moment, that's just kind of like where I wanted to put them. In at 11, we have Naked in Manhattan. 10, we have Phenomenon. 9, we have After Midnight. Also, those three kind of could have like been rearranged at any given moment. Like Phenomenon, I almost do feel like today, maybe I would have put that at 9 and After Midnight at 10. But yeah, so they could have definitely been moved around a little bit too. Then we have 8, Red Wine Supernova. 7, California. 6, My Kink is Karma, which I'm actually shocked that that's as high as it is, but I must have been bumming it when I made these notes. 5, Picture You. 4, Super Graphic Ultra Modern Girl. 3, Casual. 2, Hot to Go. And 1, Pink Pony Club. So yeah, that's my ranking. That's my thoughts on the album. Let me know your thoughts either down below or elsewhere. Like I mentioned, I think the next one of these that you'll be getting will be in 2 weeks' time, and it'll be The Secret of Us, the deluxe version from Gracie Abrams. I'm very excited to delve into that album. And yeah, I'll see you guys soon. Hopefully you enjoyed this episode. And yeah, thanks for spending the morning with me. Goodbye!